This is the Brandon Smith Show, and I'm your host, Brandon Smith, and the entire purpose of this show is one singular thing, and that is to help you live a life that much more free from dysfunction. And as we are nearing the new year, 2019, today and this season is habit forming time. So we're going to be thinking about what are the habits we need to be forming, what are the behaviors we need to be forming, what are the goals or plans or objectives that we have for next year. And to help us on this journey is my good friend, Travis Dommert. Travis, really good to have you back.
Good to be here.
So Travis has a lot of hats he wears. So his day job, you're SVP of Talent Development.
That's right.
For Jackson Healthcare and all the kind of subsidiary companies.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so big job. I also like to call Travis bristles at this a little bit, but he truly is a habit guru. So I get the pleasure of hanging with a habit guru today. Every time I'll say like, well, Travis, have you read this article? He's like, oh yeah, I met the guy. Or I know him personally. So he's going to help us on this journey to really take on this question that I've got, even selfishly for me. How do we think about 2019? What are those, not only how do we get our head around the things we should be thinking about, but how do we then actually put those into behavior? So this is almost like everyone, I do this too. I'm guilty of this. Think about the whole, New Year's resolutions.
Right.
This is like New Year's resolutions cubed. This is like a whole other level of depth of this.
How do we make it to February?
Yeah.
Most of those resolutions they're in the tank.
Yeah,
by,
but
January 14th.
And there's the classic ones, right? Like I'm gonna lose weight, or I'm going to whatever it happens to be. But you've done so much work around this and thinking around this that I think you can really help us on that. And so the last time we were together, when we last left our hero, okay, we were talking about kind of those keys to driving habits. Now, if you think about this question of 2019 and everyone listening and watching this show, what are those things that we really need to be considering putting on our radar? Maybe that's a good starting place.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When we say resolutions, you mentioned a couple of different things. Some people think of that as goals, like I'm going to finally lose the weight. It's the year.
I did kind of put that into a big stew, didn't I? Well, it was a messy stew.
But that's a very common one. Somebody might say, this is the year that I'm going to break through and I'm going to finally make X number of dollars in my job.
Yeah.
But anyway, so goals. And then other people hear the resolution and they think, no, habit. So this is the year I'm going to stop doing something or start doing something. And the thing I guess I hope we unpack is specifically, what are some of the things that actually could really change your life? And we got this question all the time when we started I Run, You Run, because I Run, You Run, this is my former life before Jackson Healthcare. We were helping people identify what are the 5 to 7 most important things that you need to consistently do to be successful. And, people it drew people in like crazy. And so they would say, what are they? And they hated it when I would say, I don't know. That's for you to figure out. They're like, no, don't tell me that. Tell me what it is, and I'll do it. And so what we did was a study, because we really didn't know the answer. We had a good idea for people who had jobs similar to ours, but we were having people like from all walks of life, whether it was somebody who's managing their home, or it was somebody who's a doctor, or a lobbyist, or a CEO. And so we did a study, and we asked 300 people, if you did just 5 to 7 things consistently, what do you think they should be to help you be the best version of yourself? And we alluded to this a little bit on the last show, that we spent a lot of time narrowing in on what are the things you need to do at work, but the big epiphany was that personal habits power professional performance. So we spent 2 years ignoring about a third of the data.
So I want to make sure everyone heard that. Let's say that again. Personal habits power professional performance.
That's right.
Okay.
And if you want more on that, watch the last show. And you asked me, like, what's one life hack? And I said, sleep. Like, that's one of those things that powers your professional performance and how you show up in relationships and everything you do. You need to get 8 hours of sleep, not 6. Certainly not 4. And we realized there were a number of things in that category. In fact, we started calling it an iceberg principle, because these things were so impactful that what we typically see are the behaviors above the waterline, and those are the things that you see at work. Like, oh, yeah, you're making your calls, or you're running meetings, or you're doing the project, or whatever, developing content. What we see less of is the stuff below the surface, and yet that has to be massive. So the more stuff that you expect to achieve or do or be responsible for, the more employees, the more projects, the more customers, the more results, the more massive that underwater piece is, and that's the personal habits.
Yeah.
So if any part of your 2019 is to have an explosive, high-performance year, to make an impact, to put a dent in the universe, then you need to really build the strong base. And so what is that? And that's where we found out, okay, sleep is one. We want to start there. But we ended up developing actually like a little, it was kind of sing-songy because it was all F's for a while, and then we ran into one that didn't fit. But we started saying faith, family, fitness, fun. Faith, family, fitness, fun. Now, we start with sleep. What does it have to do with faith, family, fitness, or fun? Well, if you're not sleeping, which one of these things is broken?
Yeah, I would think a lot of them.
Are you worrying because you're in a chronic state of anxiety over something? You know, and when I say faith, I'm not saying religion. I'm saying, like, what do you believe? Like, go into your belief system and figure that out. And that takes nurturing. That takes habits. We say family. Do you have broken relationships that are causing you to lose sleep? If you're not healthy, if you're not in the best shape of your life, the farther we get from that, harder it is to sleep. And then if you're not having any fun, you may be exhausted. You may not actually be a happy person.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was all connected. There was one more, though, and it didn't really fit with the F's, but we said, here's the category we're in. I mentioned this in the last show too. We said results come from capacity and production, from charging the batteries and expending that fuel. So you got to recharge and then you got to work. And so this is all the capacity bucket. It was faith, family, fitness, fun, and the other one was learning. Sharpening the saw. And nobody's probably going to pay you. So it's not part of the production.
And learning
it's not part
could
of the
be
results.
just learning is just learning.
Yeah.
It could be personal learning, professional learning.
But you got to be growing the noodle.
Okay.
So anyway, those are the buckets. And if we want to kind of walk through those, there's some specific things that we saw over and over and over again. And I finally got to a point where I don't want to presume, but if you had somebody say, okay, what should I do? Be like, well, you should figure it out so you own it, but I can tell you what you're going to find. You're going to find that you need to do probably these handful of things. And they end up leading to like most of the goals in your life. So when it came to faith, are you spending some quiet time on a regular basis? And by some, I don't mean an hour. How about start with 2 minutes?
Okay. So it could just be 2 minutes.
2 minutes. 2 minutes where you shut it all down. And so people would say, well, are you saying meditate? Okay. Are you saying pray? Okay. I'm saying whatever works for you, but it's shut it all down.
Now, quietly in the car while you're commuting doesn't count, does it?
Yeah, not really.
Darn. I was trying to
multitask.
Trying to multitask.
It's the
two birds with
opposite.
one stone. Yeah, no, I know.
Unmultitask.
I'm messing this up already, folks. You can see I've got a lot of work ahead of me in 2019.
I tell you, some people get ambitious. Maybe they read a book or they hear a podcast or something and think, okay, I need to meditate for 30 minutes a day. I mean, I would tell you, like, good luck with getting through the first week or even the first day. But a little dose will go a long ways. And you may grow your 2 minutes to 5 or your 5 to 10. If you're at a point where you're doing 15 to 30 minutes of truly quiet time, I mean, you are rock star level. But that's one of those. And we realize that leaders in particular, who's made up a lot of our audience, they're like, if I don't get quiet, I just run all over the place. And the amazing thing is, like, some of the brilliance comes when you shut it all down. And so in order to do that, I found that I had to pair it with another activity. Because and I've talked to a lot of people who are like, okay, I can sit here quietly, but all I'm thinking about is the stuff I should be doing. So how does this work? And so we actually would suggest pairing it with a breathing exercise. And so if you'll take like 1 minute to control your breathing, the next couple of minutes you can control your mind. And so that's where there's like some little hacks, but you could call this a morning routine if you want to.
Is
That's
that
one
the
way to look
best
at it.
time to do something like that?
I have found it to be the best time for me. I have tried to do it in the evening, and I will say it's a great way to go to sleep. Which actually, you know what? Going back to sleep, maybe that'll help you. But if you're actually looking for clarity and direction and priority for your day, I'd say start it early.
Okay, so I want to stay on this path. This is a good one. You've taken those, I guess it's 5, right? There's the 4 F's plus 1, which is learning.
Yep.
And then we drill down into 1, which is the faith element. And we talked about kind of a tactical way to execute on that. What might be if we go to another one? So family might be the next one, right?
Yep.
What would be another example of something we can think about including in our routine or be intentional about?
Yeah, so it totally depends on your life scenario. A lot of the folks we were dealing with were sort of middle life. And so in many cases, they'd be talking about their marriage. So dating, whether you're married or not, is one of those type actions. Another one could just be intentional time with your kids if you have kids. If you don't have a spouse and you don't have kids, then it could be a really close friend. But that notion of family is, think of it more broadly as relationships.
Yeah, so it sounds like those core relationships to your life, whatever life season or stage you're in.
Somebody who
evaluate those, the ones you want to pour into, the ones you want to nurture,
Yep.
and then being intentional about that.
And again, creating a habit, not an event. It's not like, oh, we should host a party. Okay, great, do that. But the life change and the ability to stay on course with other things in your life come from, I think every Friday morning, I'm going to do a call with, a family member who's across the country, or every Friday night I'm going to date my spouse, or, every Saturday morning I'm going to take one of my kids to breakfast or whatever.
Yeah.
Is turn that into a routine. And it creates some stability. It brings you back to purpose. It's just one of those things that recharges the batteries.
Okay. All right.
Move forward.
I really want to ask this next question. We're running close to break, but you know what? I'm going to ask it anyway.
Go for it.
Because it's a dangerous question, but I want to ask it. Before the show started, we started talking a little bit about habits and how to form a habit and what is a habit and research around how long it takes to form a habit. So you're hinting at this. We're talking about this. Now it's making me think, well, how do I know I've got it into a habit? Is it 21 days? How do I know?
Yeah. So there's a lot of noise around that topic. And you'll start hearing it right about now. People will say, take our 21-day challenge, or take our whatever day challenge, or week, or whatever. So a lot of recent beliefs, and if I say the last 25 years, were based around work that was published, got to go back and get it right, I think it was in the 60s. And you've got a plastic surgeon who noticed that when he would change someone's face, it would take them a few weeks before they'd look in the mirror and see themselves. After the surgery, they'd look in the mirror and see someone else. And then suddenly they stopped seeing someone else, and it was them. And after they had an amputation, they would feel these ghost sensations. After a few weeks, it'd go away. And so he postulated that it takes about 21 days for the brain to rewire. And then everybody ran with that.
Fascinating.
Said that's it. It takes 21 days to rewire the brain. Book it. Let's do it.
I had no idea.
And it had nothing to do with habits. And unfortunately, habits don't work that way. So it wasn't until 2009, whatever that is, 40, 50 years later, that a researcher in England, a woman named Pippa Lally, did a study, and she produced research on how long does it take to change a habit. I should say that's what people thought she did, and that's what they referred to. And they looked at her research, and it said an average of 63 days. And so I first saw this, Gary Williams and his partner, Steve Papasan, who did Keller Williams Realty. They wrote a book called The One Thing. Awesome book. But they cited a bunch of habit research, including hers. And so what I knew is we had some behaviors that we had done for years at I Run, You Run. And so much so that we actually kind of felt guilty, like, I can't believe I'm still tracking this. It's a totally no-brainer habit until we stopped tracking it. And within about 2 to 3 weeks, we weren't doing it anymore. And realized, wait a minute, it's been a lot more than 63 days. This has been years. I thought it was ironclad. And as soon as I stopped tracking it, stopped talking about it, it went away. And so I reached out to Pippa. And I looked at her research, and she said, no, my research was never about how many days does it take to create a habit. And by the way, the research shows this spread. It was about how long does it take for a healthy behavior to get as easy as it's going to get. It was a totally different concept called automaticity. How long does it take for a behavior to get automatic? And what she was looking at was most of the prior research said that the more consistently you do something, the easier it gets, called automaticity. Well, she actually looked at a range of behaviors and said on an automaticity scale, they get easier and easier and easier until they stop getting easier. They plateau. And so her research was about the curve to the plateau. And people thought, well, when you plateau, that means it's a habit. So it took on average 63 days for that curve to plateau. The problem that nobody talked about was when it plateaus, it might actually still be hard. It's not automatic yet. It got as easy as it's going to get. But if it's still hard, it's not a habit.
You're going to need a lot more to keep it going.
That's right.
All right, so let's roll into our break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about some of those mechanisms that we can put in place, and then we'll roll into our other 2Fs, learning, and then we will see where we're at.
Sounds good.
Okay, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Brandon with your coaching minute for the week. So I've got a tip for you that I put on most of my clients' action plans that you may think it sounds a little crazy. So hear me out. I want you to designate one of your colleagues or coworkers, somebody maybe works in a different department that maybe a peer of yours that you don't work with every day. And I want you to intentionally plan on having lunch with one colleague or coworker a month. So all I'm asking for is one lunch a month. And you may say to yourself, Brandon, that's such a waste of time. I don't have time to have lunch with people. But what I have found from my clients that's been able to do this is they come back and they say, not only was it so valuable to learn more about them as a person, I learned really important stuff going on in their departments. And they learned important stuff going on in mine. And we were able to share information, and we both agreed it was a really good use of our time. So that's my challenge to you. Designate a day of the month that you're willing to go out to lunch with a coworker. Go find one. Go out to lunch, and I promise you, you're going to be glad you did. It's going to help you be more productive, operate more efficiently and effectively, and strengthen some of those relationships that we all need. So that is your coaching minute for the week. Until next week, I can't wait to hear how it goes. Welcome back from the break. Of course, this is the Brandon Smith Show, and today we are talking about habits, and I've got my good friend Travis Dommert with us, and we're talking about forming habits for 2019. And Travis, before the break, we were talking about kind of those 4Fs. We had faith, family,
fitness,
fun, and then learning. And we got through some tactical things around faith and family that we can do. We were even talking about kind of scheduling time and making it a routine. And then we went into that path of how long does it take to form a habit. And what I learned from you was all the research basically is going to tell us the point at which the habit becomes as easy as or as natural to us, as automatic as possible. But that doesn't mean it doesn't still require some nurturing, maintenance, and accountability.
Right. And a lot of people would hopefully buy into the concept of a habit is that it's easier to do it than not do it. That's when you know you've got a habit. And the great news is some behaviors can become habits. It will be easier for you to do the right thing than the wrong thing. But I tell you, beware. Because I believe in bad habits. Bad habits are real. Good habits are a little bit more like unicorns. Like I've seen pictures of them, but I've never actually met one. And so if you think it's going to become easier to make your cold calls than not, or do your sit-ups than not, or eat your kale than not, I got bad news for you.
Yeah.
Maybe for you, but for a lot of people, good habits are kind of myth. You need routines and structure, accountability, clarity. You need all the wrappers around it to keep yourself kind of going in the right direction.
Yeah, so even on the last F, we were talking about family. If we talk about date nights, if I'm hearing you say that, you said you might get into a routine where you're doing a date night the first Friday of every month. If you stop scheduling it, you're just not all of a sudden going to show up at a restaurant together on the first Friday of the month and say, oh, well, we're just naturally knew we were supposed to be here.
How do we find ourselves here?
It's automatic. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional about that scheduling.
Yeah. Whereas you can find your hand in the bag of chips and think, how did that happen? Whoops. So, yep, you got to be really intentional with the good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and it may take longer than 63 days.
All right. So we've got faith, which was that quiet time to kind of have that time with us.
One suggestion.
That was one
there
suggestion.
Are many.
There are a lot. So that was one. And the family time, date night was one suggestion, but
Yep.
kind of the spirit of
Date your spouse, date your little girls, like quiet, intentional time together.
yeah, carve out that time and be focused and intentional about it. All right, so fitness.
Yeah.
How about fitness? What kind of now I'm feeling really uncomfortable about that. My back has been giving me so many problems, Travis. So many problems. So this is definitely high on my radar at the moment.
Okay. So let's get some core work going. Let's stop the show. We just need to get on the floor and knock this out. No?
And thank you for listening to our show today. We'll never be having Travis back.
Okay. I think I learned the most about how to create a powerful fitness habit regimen from a guy here in Atlanta named Day Adeoba. And Day built a program called the Balance Game and the Your Day Balance Game. And anyway, he teaches a lot about habits and other behaviors, but what I really liked is he came up with an acronym called BALANCE that'll let you kind of mentally go through the list of all the things that really drive your fitness. Now, he would even say it drives your character because your fitness it shows up in so many ways, more than you think. And for that, a little side note, one of my favorite books is called Spark, The Revolutionary Science of Exercise in the Brain, is realizing how you move your body affects how you think, how you feel, how you relate to people, how you relate to yourself. So lots of research in the area of why is fitness so important for everything else, including your key relationships and your job and everything else. But anyway, let's go through the balance. We'll run through that moniker real quick. B, he'd start out with breathe. And so he's really referring to cardio. You got to work your body, work your whole cardiovascular system. And so pick something. Walk, run, get on the treadmill, do something that is working your cardiovascular system routinely. You really can't overdo it, but something routinely. A, agua, but it's your fluids. Now, we need water.
I'm drinking some water as I'm hearing you.
Wonderful example. We don't really need anything else. And I'm sure there's some nutrition or fitness expert out there saying, whoa, stop, don't listen to him. But at the end of the day, I think we're one of the only species that consumes another species' milk as an adult. There's things that we do that I don't know why we do it. Maybe it's for calcium or vitamin D or whatever. We can get those things from our food. We really need water, and we need a lot more of it than we're getting. And so, to quote one of my favorite people, there's a coach at Northwestern Mutual who is a famously successful guy, and he teaches the highest potential executives that he can bring into his world, drink more water. It's the number one key to sales success. Now, he was a former professional athlete, but he would say, you are not thinking clearly. You are not present. You are not functioning if you aren't putting enough water in your body every day. So there's plenty to do on that, but that's a little one. If you're not doing it, get more water. L, lengthening, and that's about stretching. Flexibility impacts our ability to fight off disease and how our body functions.
Yeah.
We need to stretch, and that's something you can do at your desk. And you could just say, okay, I'm gonna put a little stretch reminder on my calendar, recurring every day. I come back from lunch, I'm gonna stretch for like 1 minute. Like, it doesn't have to be a big deal. If you want to do 5 or 10, great. The next A is anaerobic, strength. We need to be stronger. And every year we get older, that gets harder to do. But we can make a muscle. And we need to make a muscle. Yeah. So do something for strength. And then the NCE is nutrition. Not surprising there. More good stuff, more natural stuff, less processed stuff. Whatever diet you're on, be intentional about it. Cleansing. And I would say, I take this less literally. I'm thinking like, am I putting good stuff in my body, in my brain, in my thoughts? So cleansing could be your sleep. That could be your sense of humor. These last two, cleansing and energizing, they both could be healthy habits that go beyond fitness.
Yeah.
But that acronym can take you through a lot, and you could find 3 things in there you're going to start doing consistently.
Yeah, there's no. I completely understand why I brought you back for another show. I mean, there's already so much in this that we could do just here, just even just balance. It's almost enough for a whole year. There's a lot there.
There is.
Okay, so that was fitness.
Yep.
Fun. What does that mean?
Are you having any fun? Again,
is it that simple?
Yeah, I go back to our friend at Northwestern Mutual, John Wright. When he coaches a high-performing executive, he'll talk about, like, one of the key things you should be doing is something that you actually enjoy. And if that's making sales calls, awesome. That's going to help your job go better. But if that's playing golf, or if that's drawing, just something, you need another channel. You got to switch gears and periodically throw it into a different gear.
So making sure you're getting that. Now, does that mean something you do regularly, like we talk about exercise or diet or date nights or breathing or meditation and quiet time? Is it something you should be doing every day, every week, every month, or does it matter as long as it has a routine to it?
That's probably more important. I would say it's like brushing your teeth. Is it more important to brush your teeth 2 minutes a day, or, whatever that ends up being, 700 minutes in a week, and then take the rest of the year off? Not so good.
Yeah.
So the one thing I love about the week, if you said I'm going to do something on a weekly basis, I can actually use my calendar to remind me. And, that may not necessarily work. You might say every other week. But I'll tell you, the most powerful habit-forming tool we have today is an electronic calendar. It's like having another brain.
I was going to ask you about that, how to leverage Outlook.
Yeah.
So maybe when we get to, let's hold that, because I want to end with that. I think that's a great way to end our time. So we got to F, now let's L, or learning. Is our last one. So what would be some examples of learning that we could be considering as we're going into the next year?
Listen to your show.
I love this guy. He will be coming back, folks.
We talked about it, I think it was off the air, was, using a tool like Audible. I use Downcast for my podcast, but you could, any podcasting tool. Something that is sharpening the saw. Are you getting wisdom from somebody who's been there or done that, or, is farther along the journey to mastery in some dimension of your life? And pick one. It could be fitness. It could be your job, but we've got to keep learning. And that is also a habit. It is not, I went to a conference in June. Okay, it's coming up on December. How do you drop in nuggets every week?
Okay, so I want to push on this one a little bit because we have a little bit of time left. So when I think about learning, I think of it in 2 ways. One is the fun, easy learning. Audible, I'm at the gym or I'm commuting and I'm listening to some books and wisdom, and it's great. It's easy learning. Then there's the hard learning, where I'm stretching myself. I'm trying something new. I'm failing at something. I'm learning, but it's not comfortable. So, like right now, I'm in the process of finishing my first book.
Yeah,
it's not a comfortable experience because I'm getting feedback and I'm saying, oh, this isn't good. I'm just not happy with it because I'm trying to make it perfect. But I'm learning a ton in the process. So, are they both equal? Do we need them both? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, my thought on it is that's where goals can be really helpful. Is step out there and throw a goal out on the calendar. So it could be, I want to have a book written in 2019 and published. It could be, I need to give a big speech. I remember the first time I signed up for a triathlon, I was scared to death. But I thought, if I sign up for that race, come April, I will have to be able to swim a mile. And so now my habit, which was going to the gym and getting in shape and learning to swim, it got reinforced by that scary goal. I don't want to die in the Tampa Bay when I go down to that race in St. Petersburg. And so I think they can work together. But if you are staying in the comfy, happy place, you're probably not growing. And so if you want your learning to really be effective, I think you pair it with something that's uncomfortable, that maybe is a little scary. And that thing will cause you to come back. And I think it really embraces it takes the learning to another level. Another thing you could just do is agree to teach it. So at work or at home or church or wherever you are, this works great at work. Say, okay, I'm going to talk to my boss. I'm going to set a goal that next quarter, I'm going to host a lunch and learn on a topic I don't know anything about. But that if I knew it, it would really help me in my job. And so if you do that paradigm of I'm going to become a teacher, your learning will go way up.
So it's kind of the difference between passive learning versus active or applied learning.
Yeah.
You're going to have to apply it, whether it's, do that race, do that triathlon, or teach this, or write a book.
As opposed to reading the book about somebody who did one.
Right.
Sign up for one, and then I think your
Becomes
learning will go up.
a little different. Okay, that's great. Well, all right, so we got through all of them. We're running towards the end here. A few final thoughts around Outlook. How can we use technology or electronic calendars? Well, I use Outlook as an example, but there's so many calendaring tools. How can we use electronic calendaring tools to help us move the needle? What are some ways we could, if someone's now saying, okay, I'm ready to go, Travis, I want to start, what are some ways we can use those tools?
Yeah, I want to throw out two. And first of all, I think they address the number one reason people get off track. The number one reason people don't follow through with their habits and they don't achieve their goals is they forget. It's that simple. I forgot what my resolution was. I forgot what the goals were that I set for this year. It's that simple. And so Outlook has a calendar. It has the recurring reminder. It has a notes place. It has a to-do list. Like, it's got all the functionality you need to remember. So I think recurring calendar reminders can be a total game changer. I think the other part of Outlook and the calendar, again, any electronic calendar, is your life is just the sum of how you spend your time. That is life. And so if it doesn't fit in the calendar, it's not likely going to happen or continue. And then the second thing is just a different technology. And I know you use Zoom, and you've probably used lots of other tools like that. But find somebody who loves you, who's willing to really ask you hard questions, and think about, how do I get that on the calendar? And if that person's not local, then video conferencing with a coach or with a loved one or with a colleague is a great way to mutually reinforce
so you're
your
talking
habits.
Accountability partner.
Accountability partner.
And do you give them that role? Do you say, I need you to be my accountability partner, I want you to ask me about these things? Or is it mostly just about someone close to you that you know will push you? Do you assign it?
You realize if they have a pulse, they need one too. So that's where you can be accountability partners for each other. You got to find somebody who actually wants to do this. And I think the best way is not to find the most sage, wise, high-achieving person you've ever met. It's to find somebody who's trying to grow also.
Yeah, who's in it too. Who's got the same level of kind of aspirations and growth goals as you do, or ambitions.
Yep. And then, again, use calendar, use Zoom, use tools like that, and say, all right, so we're going to agree. You're going to say my name and ask me if I did this stuff. Travis, did you do those things? And I'm going to do the same thing, and we're going to do that again, whether it's once a week, once a month. Just don't think it's going to be 21 days and you're done.
Travis, this is awesome. I would normally ask the life hack question, but I think the entire show today was nothing but tremendous life hacks.
Cool.
So this was phenomenal. I'm ready to grab my calendar and start putting stuff in place.
Let's do it.
So if people want to learn more about you, learn more about what you've either have done or are up to today, where can they go?
Yeah, I would suggest LinkedIn. I'm easy to find there. I've got a couple links to videos and resources. I've got things on YouTube and Vimeo and stuff like that. But LinkedIn's an easy way to find anything that I have. I said this last time, and I'll use this little airtime for a shameless plug. If you're a highly talented, purpose-driven, values-oriented leader, then you need to come over to jacksonhealthcare.com/careers and find me through applying for a job.
Nice. And then they could really get to work with you a little more closely.
Absolutely. I will sit down with you for as much time as we need.
Fantastic. Well, Travis, awesome. I can't express my gratitude for you. You're such a gift. This was amazing. And I still feel like we've just scratched the surface. So going back to your iceberg analogy, there's a lot left. So I hope you'll be willing to come back again, and maybe we'll see how 2019 goes and bring you back for a little bit of a follow-up and keep us kind of focused.
Sounds good.
And for all of you listening, thanks for keeping up the fight against dysfunction every week. Catch a new show each Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on iTunes, thebrandonsmithshow.com, and live on facebook.com/Brandon Smith WPT for Workplace Therapist. And of course, you can catch either prior episodes, read my blog, and get other content at theworkplacetherapist.com. So that's a resource site just for you. And if you enjoyed today's show, and we certainly hope you have, please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. So until our next show and next week, have a great week and an awesome life.